today. So I just want to welcome everybody to the February HUPS meeting. Meetings are typically the first Monday of the month. Not always, but typically. If you ever feel like logging on, usually on Facebook, on the HUPS Facebook page will be the login information for the meeting. Let's see, I'm trying to say, how do I start
Okay,
here?
can I just go to your bedroom?
Visitors. Any visitors want to raise their hands and introduce themselves? Or just
I'm
speak
not
up?
immediate, but
All right, Graham, I see you raising your hand first. Who are you?
Yeah, I'm Graham Abbott. I'm living in Bali, Indonesia, dive guide, and I've just done my SSI instructor update. I'm getting back to teaching. Woo-hoo.
Wow.
Loving it. Yeah, really good.
So Graham has a guide company called travel company, guide company, divingforimages.com. I've made a number of dive trips with Graham over the years. Always had a great time. And as I know several other people on here have as well. So thanks for coming.
I'll raise my hand. Good to see you,
Been there
Graham.
before.
I want to go back to Bali.
Let's go.
Okay, let's go.
I'll go anywhere.
Any other visitors want to raise their hand, speak up, and say hello?
I'm gonna call out Sage.
Yes.
Sage is on the call.
Yeah, we saw her. I talked to her
yeah.
briefly.
Yeah, I met her on the last Flower Gardens trip, and I was like, "You need to join HUPS. I need to do it right now." So welcome, Sage.
Way to go, Sage. Wherever you are, I don't see you anymore. But
thank you, Justin. Appreciate it.
so when was that Flower Gardens trip y'all met?
Was the second
It was the first week in
trip they did
September.
out? Yeah,
Okay.
September.
Yeah,
So
we
there were two coral spawns last year, and it was the second coral spawn that Justin and I met on.
Awesome. Well, good. Well, thank you, Justin, and thank you, Sage. We look forward to seeing you and working with you and maybe seeing some of your work.
Thank you.
Want to say anything else about yourself, like what kind of diving or photography you like to do, or what kind of gear you use, or anything at all?
Yeah, so I've been diving since I was young. So it's, I think, 17 years now, which sounds like a lot, even to me. But I started using a camera with like an old Panasonic way back, maybe 15, 14 years ago, just clicking around. And I haven't really changed much since that until about 2 years ago. I got an Olympus, and I really started taking things a little more seriously. I definitely don't have a rig like Justin's, but hopefully someday I could. But I have the Olympus TG4, and I've gotten some lighting and some strobe and some things that I've never worked with before. So I think coming here is going to be really good to help me do better with those things, because I've been clicking away for many, many years and not doing photography really.
Okay. Well, good. Hopefully we can help move you in the right direction then. It's a
Thank you.
great place to hang out sometimes. Linda.
David McCracken.
I just want to say, Linda, I've never seen you with your hair done, so I don't know why you were afraid to turn your camera on.
And it's going back off again. It's great to be with you guys. Some of you I dove with in Anilau with Mike, and I'm a heavy duty blackwater diver in South Florida. So if you ever get to South Florida and want to do blackwater dives, check in with me and I'll be glad to dive with you. And happy to be here and listen to Mike.
Yeah, I was just looking around the room because I had your book on my desk here until just I put it out on the coffee table. And so I don't have it handy. I was going to hold your book up. She has a great blackwater photo book. So if anybody's interested.
Definitely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Dave McCracken, you want to say something? You have to unmute first.
She's on mute.
You have to
David,
unmute.
you're on mute.
Press down. Sorry about that. Yeah. It's great to see all of you again. Mike, it's kind of a first time meeting for us. I've been to Crystal Blue, and you were away when I was there. Me and I think it was Bob Sherman, if you know Bob Sherman. I think maybe that, anyway, that was about 6-7 years ago. I'm stuck
Great.
in Virginia right now. My last dive was to the Red Sea, which was a mixed results. But I would love to go back. I haven't seen Dennis and Tom. Haven't seen you guys since our Socorro trip in 2017. And David, same with you. And the rest of the gang, I've been away for a while, so it's good to see you all.
Same. Okay, any other visitors want to speak up and introduce themselves? I know there's some of, I think Mike's buddies on here are followers of Bartik's. So if you want to say,
Yeah, hey, this is Jason. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, so I'm a Monterey beach diver. I've been diving quite a while, and I like taking pictures, but really interested in everybody else's pictures and hearing what you do and seeing your work.
okay, well, thanks for coming out. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I'm Rich Todd. I'm in Dallas. I'm a former Monterey beach diver out there. Good to see you, Jesse. I've dove with you a few times, and I actually signed up for one of Mike's workshops and canceled during COVID, and so looking forward to getting to do that eventually. But I've done some blackwater diving in Hawaii, so am looking forward to macro work in Aniline. So
Good place for it. Anybody else before we move on? Okay. Well, again, I just want to say thanks for everybody turning out. So next, typically in the meetings we ask, has anybody been diving lately? Has anybody been diving lately?
Me, yesterday.
Who's me? Where we at?
Mike.
Okay.
Me
Yesterday
today.
in California.
Oh, yay.
Today.
Sure.
That's good. Good for y'all. And
You
Graham,
dive the
you
bridge?
yes.
Yeah,
Oh, Luca.
it was good over
Good
here.
luck, you guys.
I was at Blue Heron Bridge 2 weekends ago.
All right.
To those of you who know Blue Heron Bridge as a tropical destination, I want to tell you it was dry suit conditions.
I imagine.
Yeah, it was pretty chilly, but always a good time.
And you were in town and you didn't do a black water dive, Justin?
I know. So
I agree.
I know you're gonna call me out, Linda. I know you're gonna call me out. So I was only there Friday through Monday, and I did want to do a black water dive with Pura. They had one scheduled, but I just had other things going on. So I actually went for my. I knew there was a lot of seahorses, and I went for a seahorse shot. So I got my seahorse shot finally. So that's what I did.
And honestly, most of them have been canceled because of rough seas lately. So it would have been pure luck if there was one that weekend anyway.
Yeah, and of course, I didn't want to come on the boat in my dry suit and you guys pick on me.
We would have envied you at this point.
I'm diving in a dry suit and I'm in Key West. So don't be shy.
I don't blame you.
Well, we have a lagoon at the college. I work at the college as a dive instructor, and the water is 66 degrees. Definitely dry suit.
That's cool.
The ocean is about 72. So,
So, Luca, how do you end up here this evening? You follow Mike, or how do you?
I follow Mike. Yes. Hi, Mike. So when
Hi,
I saw
Luca.
that, I was like, I definitely need to zoom in and see this presentation. So thank you for opening it
Sure.
up to
Thanks for
other people
coming.
as well.
Yeah, I
Thank
forgot. Where are you?
I am in Key West, Florida.
Oh,
I'm
Key
at the
West.
College of the Florida Keys.
Okay.
I teach full-time scuba diving at the college, which is the best job ever.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Wow, what a great job.
Maybe right after the photography job that Mike has. I think I would rather take that.
Awesome. All right. Well, glad everybody's on tonight. I guess with this,
David,
yes.
I just am back from a Socorro trip for 8 days on the Aggressor.
And how was
It
that?
was rather rough.
How was it?
Which Aggressor were you on?
The Cassiopeia.
I didn't know that the Aggressors were running to Socorro.
I think I was on the second trip that they did after they
Okay.
restarted.
Okay, good.
But,
Good for you. Yeah, this is a rough time of year.
It was a very rough trip.
Hello?
What
A lot
boat?
of roll moment. It never was stable the whole trip.
That's similar to our trip.
Yes.
What was
We
the
were
water
rocking
temperature
and rolling.
like? What was the water temp like?
Most of the time it was about 76.
And that was December when you went, or when did you go?
December, I left on the 27th and got back on the 6th of
Okay.
January.
So did you see a lot of manta rays, sharks? What about humpbacks?
No humpbacks, a few dolphins. There were mantas pretty much on every dive. Very few sharks.
Oh, really?
Did you
wanna
do the
say-
boiler?
I was rather disappointed in the trip.
Yeah.
There wasn't all that much to see. Like I say, it was pretty rough the whole time, which they obviously don't have anything to do with, but the nitrox we got was never made it to 32. It was mostly around 28. So at the end of the trip, they did compass that anyhow.
All right.
Made it back in one piece, so that's a good thing.
Did they give a reason for the nitrox being so low?
They said something was broken.
Oh, okay.
So that's
So that's
a
not
big
normal,
help.
hopefully.
No, it's not normal for Aggressor.
Oh, Paul,
Hey,
how you
Paul.
doing?
And next time you go to Socorro, go in February or March.
I'm
Well, I
just glad
thought
I got
November
back
was
before
actually
they
the
shut
fun
everything
time.
down.
Am I wrong?
February, March is when the whales are migrating.
Yeah, we had a good trip. It was a little rough still most of the time we were out there in February. So
Yeah.
anyways,
I got slammed into Roca Partida by one of the surges.
You were too close.
I was too close.
good tip.
I went from 20 feet to on the surface in about 2 seconds.
I remember that.
Ooh, oh, I remember that.
I do remember that.
Yeah, you were right beside me.
So
So
thank you for
does
that, Joe. Anybody else before we move on, I guess, from the diving reports, or anybody been diving lately? Anyone? Okay, hopefully that'll pick up before too long. Okay, so
Actually,
now,
sorry.
what? Okay, go ahead.
I haven't been out yet this year, but they have reopened Aquarina and they've reopened the courses for Aquarina. It's mostly online now, but then they have a classroom session that's like 4 hours. For here in Central Texas or Houston, it's not too far of a drive to do Aquarina, and it's really beautiful, but you do have to go on and sign up for time slots. So they have some cautionary, only certain number of people allowed to come diving at certain times.
You're talking about San Marcos, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm actually scheduled to go with a group of friends on the 12th.
I've never done that. I've always thought about it, but I just never have. One of those things.
It's like
One of these days.
It's a beautiful spring, and it's
Oh, yeah.
definitely much clearer than you could find anywhere else in Texas.
looks like Dallas is signed in. Hello, Judy. Maybe
He's
not.
there. Well, we're gonna move along. The duo, Craig and Betsy, y'all have any announcements? Workshops, Craig, how about that?
Yeah. First workshop of the year is February 13th. Typical dial into the Zoom meeting. And just a quick overview. We're going to try something different this time, which is kind of go back to some basics in photography. For those of you that aren't members of the club, we have a monthly photo contest, and it's governed by categories. And so these workshops, although it would be of interest to anyone trying to take photos, I think, but it's sort of looking ahead in the next 6 months to say, look at the categories that you're going to be trying to put photos in and compete. And we'll have a couple of talks from very esteemed speakers who happen to be on the call tonight. Dennis is going to talk about the use of negative space, and David is going to talk about leading lines, which relate to two of the categories. So after we get these sort of, talks on artistic theory and photography and how it applies to underwater, then we'll have sort of a roundtable where we put up random photos that are anonymous, and we're going to ask the group to just do an open critique and just sort of exchange ideas of what do we like, what don't we like, could it have been improved, what do we think the photographer could have done different in the field, what could he have done in processing. And like I said, they're anonymous, so nobody's going to be offended, and we can just speak our minds and hope to learn a little bit about it. So, everybody's invited to dial into that on February 13th. It's announced on the Facebook page and on the HUPS website as well.
All right, sounds good. And Betsy, anything to say about video contest and/or HUF?
About HUF, for those of you who are our guests tonight, you may not know that HUPS has its own film festival, the Houston Underwater Film Festival. And this past year, we had to postpone it because of COVID. And we are rescheduled for April 17th and 18th. We're waiting to see if the city of Houston is going to open the theaters and let us actually have our film festival. If not, we'll be, getting our committee together, and we will probably show it online. But until we know whether Houston is going to let the theaters open, we're just kind of waiting. So that's, what's going on with that. We also have a video contest coming up for HUPS. We have 2 a year. Our spring video contest entries are due May 1st. So if you get the newsletter, you can go on there and you can click on the rules and how to enter. The films are limited to 5 minutes. That all the rules are on the HUPS website, and May 1st is our deadline for the spring contest.
Let me just interject for those of you, again, that aren't familiar. This is not a HUPS member film festival. This is an international film festival with films from all over the world and some very distinguished people, some of whom are on the call right now, so I won't embarrass them by calling them out. But Dennis, okay, I see you're smiling. So yeah, it's really our first time to do it, but we were absolutely astounded by the response that we got. So we've got 2 days of films and separate programs that go to the website and have a look, and I think you'll want to have a look at them.
Hey Betsy, do you want to talk about the 2021 Film Festival too?
The 2021 Film Festival is scheduled for April 2nd and 3rd, 2022. Okay, 2022. Our 2020 festival moved to 2021.
Sorry, yeah, okay.
Right, and so the next one after that is April 2nd and 3rd, 2022, and we will open up entries in April, and everyone will start getting emails about that. We go through filmfreeway.com for entries, and we'll start taking entries. This festival that we're about to show in April has films from 26 different countries. We're showing 65 films, and it's really a beautiful show, I have to say. I hope you guys don't miss it.
All right, great. Thanks so much. And so stay tuned to the HUPS Facebook page for announcements on HUF. Does HUF have its own Facebook page? Yeah, I didn't think so. Okay. So on the HUPS Facebook page and the hups.org website as well. Any other announcements anybody need to make?
I just have one quick one. It's Justin again.
Okay.
Is it all sold out to get into the HUPS?
Unmute.
For the HUF 2021 that we're about to show, yes, it is. Entries are closed. We will open the entries for the HUF 2022 in April this year.
No,
I was actually asking if I could come because I was a little late on buying my ticket. So do I bribe the bouncer or?
You can get tickets, you just can't enter a film.
Oh no! I just want to attend. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, absolutely.
Okay. Oh, it's stunning. Very good. I was heartbroken if I wasn't able to attend. Thank you.
Well, that assumes, Justin, that we're going to actually have a place to have it. We're hoping right now.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. So I just want to make sure that I can, even if it was open, I can still attend in person, socially distant, mask on, and a bottle of Cabernet.
I think if we are able to hold it, actually, that, there are probably going to be some no-shows. So, even in April. So,
Well,
yeah.
I'll welcome my tip for the bouncer. I know what to get my way in.
Yeah.
Mark down the dates, one way or another. Okay, if we don't have any more announcements, then I'll turn it over to you for the program.
Okay, well, I guess, am I showing on the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see you.
Okay, good. I see my speaker view isn't only showing Paul right now. But anyway, tonight we have one of our good friends from the Philippines. Well, actually, he's in South California right now, Southern. And it's Mike Bardick, one of our good friends. He runs Crystal Blue Resort. And I think what I'll do now is just turn it over to Martin. He's going to run my presentation video. I know that title is a bit overboard, but in all respect, Mike really is the Prince of Darkness. He has been at the forefront of popularizing blackwater diving, the newest rage in underwater photography. Mike is the international sales and general manager at Crystal Blue Resort out on the far southwest corner of Luzon in the Philippines. He has assembled and helped train a talented staff to run the resort and the dive operation. Groups and individual guests from all over the world benefit from Mike's willingness to share his knowledge as the photo pro. I met Mike on one of Jesse's trips back in 2014. That's where I experienced the wonders of Anilao and their excellent resort. In addition, Mike gives talks at many venues, and his Blackwater photo group on Facebook is wildly popular. Members from all around the world post their work for display and comment. The camera room Mike designed is the best anywhere. It's well laid out, convenient, air-conditioned, and well supplied. The dive operation is likewise well designed, and the staff knowledgeable and helpful. In contrast to normal reef diving, blackwater dives require more coordination, equipment, and different skills. first part of Mike's presentation is Macro Unhinged, showcasing the world-class muck diving at Analau. Ends the presentation with a show on blackwater diving. Okay, well, that tells you a little bit about Mike, and I'm going to turn it over to him, and he can fill in the blanks that I have left. I'm sure he's got plenty to talk to us about. I looked at a little bit of his presentation. It looks like he can talk for about 3 days from what he's got there. So, Mike, it's yeah, I think it's up to you now.
Okay, let me screen share. Well, thank you, everybody. It's nice to see all of the people here in the group. You know, I've seen a lot of you at the resort and become friends with quite a few of you. And it's nice to see everybody still alive and doing well in this crazy time. So tonight's talk, I'm gonna, yes, just like the video we saw, I'm gonna discuss macro first and then go into Blackwater. And you know, these are the topics I'm going to cover tonight. I do a lot of my macro shooting with snoots. I've been using snoots since before Kerry Wilk came out with his fiber optic snoot back in, I think, 2007. And you know, when he came out with that fiber optic snoot, it was really a game changer. Prior to that, I was using funnels and tinfoil and all kinds of different things, and different ways to try to create something different. And then I'm talking about some of the motion blur and things that I do, and it's kind of an expansion on an article that I wrote in Alert Diver. And then the part two will be, you know, basically in blackwater diving, what it is, how we do it, and show some photos from that, and also some video. So, you know, for me, I love trying different techniques. I do about, when we're diving, I'm doing between 450 and 600 dives a year. I'm in the water almost every single day. And, you know, because of that, it allows me to really explore and to try different techniques. And a lot of the techniques that I've learned and taught myself over the years, I love to teach to guests and see them grasp the ideas and then grow with them. I'm not a huge editing guy, although I can work my way around Lightroom. My photo skills really lie in behind the camera. So I try to teach people that first and to really experiment with lighting. So I'm going to talk about what I look for in myself to make strong images. And, you know, I try to capture behavior. That's the main thing. You know, just like in shooting video, you really want to capture behavior. So if I have the opportunity to do that, I will. I always watch for different shadows, making sure that when I'm shooting macro on the sand, you know, I'm not always using two strobes. In fact, I rarely use two strobes when I'm shooting macro because I really want dimension and I want those shadows to be placed. You know, I'm really trying to be conscious of everything that I'm doing in the image. I look at hard and soft lighting and the contrast in the images. When I'm snooting, you know, you can do the single ring circus, like I like to call it. Like this photo is a very typical single ring kind of thing. But that gets very old very fast, you know. And when you look at somebody's portfolio, you know, you get about 4 pages into it and you're like, well, is everything a single ring circus already? You know, so there's a lot of different ways to use snoots. The lighting is very directional, it's very intense, and it really teaches and has taught me a lot about lighting. So I use them frequently, even with strobes. On I might use one snoot in a strobe. There's all different kinds of ways. Anyways, subjects should always be looking into the frame at some point, and that really helps it to determine the composition. Snoots work really well to eliminate backgrounds, to bring out detail, and really helps to retain color. So these are the different tools that I use in the market. There's a lot of different tools for underwater photographers, which is cool because, I love new gadgets. And if you've ever seen my workstation at the resort, you'll know. And my garage now is full of stuff. Anyways, there's all kinds of stuff on the market. If you like snoots, I can highly recommend these ones that we're looking at. The Kraken V2, I use that for backlighting and for colorizing different things. It's a very intense light. The Backscatter Mini Snoot is probably the best, easiest snoot on the market to use at this point. And yes, I sell them. Sorry, it's just my humor. It's probably the easiest snoot to use that's on the market. It's highly effective, very powerful, guide 16, so you're not shooting wide angle with it. The Retro LSD, also very effective, but it's a bit cumbersome. Then one of my personal favorites is the fiber optic, but it's not the easiest to use. I have it set up there because I shoot it off camera a lot. So this is my basic macro setup. I usually go down, I have a diopter, the circular too. I have these different toys that I like to go down and play with. And when I'm shooting subjects, I usually try to get probably 2 or 3 or 4 different versions of each subject that I'm working with. So when I go on a dive for accumulating shots of 20 different things, I really want to come away with 1 or 2 really good shots. And if in a week I can put 5 good shots together, I'm very happy. If somebody's paying me to go and shoot something, I can get it done pretty fast. But if I'm diving on my own with guests, I really am trying to push myself to a different level all the time. This is from California. If anybody's dove in California, 4-foot surge is pretty normal. So you have to really learn about timing. I taught myself how to dive and shoot in Southern California. And, if you can shoot here, you can shoot anywhere. Trust me. So this is a typical single ring circus kind of image of a pretty hard to photograph subject, especially because of the current surge here in California. The thing flops around, looks like a really tiny anemone.
Hey, Mike, I'm real sorry to interrupt. It seems as though you're not really full screen, and so your titles are getting cut off at the top. I was wondering if you could hit the play button. I think that would probably get rid of that.
Yeah, I hit the play button.
Oh, that's weird. Screen? That bar is still hanging down there. Is anybody else seeing that?
I'm seeing it.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe the cursor is still on it.
No, it's down at the bottom. I don't know where it is.
Can you see the image?
When I hit play, all that goes away. So I don't know.
Yeah, I hit play. I don't know.
It's fine. All right, keep it rolling. Just the titles are getting cut off at the top.
Oh, you're not missing much.
Okay, keep rolling. Sorry to interrupt.
It's okay. So I'm just talking about snooting and the different ways that I use snoots to really control light, because when you're working with in the beginning, we're all concerned about what camera do you have, what lens do you have, and after a while, it's like, it's really about light, and photography really is all about lighting. So for me, snoots are a very effective way of lighting subjects. And so just to go back to that, I have a lot of shots of nudibranchs because they're very easy to work with, and they're so dang colorful. I mean, look at these guys. They're beautiful, even though they're very small. And then the lighting is very important to me when I'm trying to capture this kind of an image. I love capturing natural history images, all different kinds of stuff. After all, that's really where we all start out. But, when I really want to make a beautiful macro portrait, I'm really trying to just bring that subject and making that subject the main event. And that's very important to me. So it's very good at eliminating background light with the high shutter speed and low ISO. You can block out ambient light. and really make it happen. So just some different styles of shots here, creating different drama in the images. And then, when I get to subjects that are really challenging to photograph, I love to set up on them. And I use my fiber optic snoots off camera. So, and I also have really long fiber optic cables that I am able to trigger my strobe with. So I'll set up that shot and then back off and set my camera down and just wait, and then wait for that subject to relax and get used to my presence. And then once that happens, I think anyways that I'm sneaking up back behind my camera, and the subject at that point is pretty calm. Fish don't have the longest memory, so a lot of times I think that they look at the camera and after a while they get used to it and think, oh, it's been there forever, like it's part of the reef. So I just set my camera down, and that allows me to really work with these subjects. And long bottom time, just sit and wait and able to catch the shots. And this one got me 10th place in the Smith Rice contest. So I was really happy about that. It's a really interesting subject with that big full mouth of eggs, a jawfish, and a lot of details. So when I'm trying to photograph subjects like these, and this is something that I always ask and try to engage my guests with, is what's the story you're trying to tell here? What is the story? And to me, it's the eggs, obviously. So I'm going to make sure that I'm getting those eggs and getting that depth of field. So do I want to use a diopter in a shot like this? Probably not. I want to get that depth of field. So I'm going to work myself in closely with the native lens and try to capture the shot to the best of my ability. Here's a real concept image, of a stargazer looking up at stars. So sometimes I'm not afraid of backscatter. I think that it can work in a lot of different images and add kind of dimension to it. Can you guys see that? Is that all right coming through? Yeah.
Yes, it looks great.
Yeah, totally.
And then, of course, natural history behavior shots. Here we have a nice goby with these nasty parasites and eggs hanging out of it. So, not all shots are created the same. You kind of got to look at the shot, figure out what your story is, and then try to capture the image the best way you can. I had a mentor when I was really early on in shooting, and he used to drive that home to me, and he would look at my photos and say, tell me the story about these shots. And, if there wasn't a story to it, he would really bash me. So that's very important to me. Here is just about the bokeh, really getting that creamy bokeh. I love the way a lens works. And on topside photography or underwater, I really, really like using the background when I can to create these creamy kind of images. And so I'm actually using a snoot on this one, but I don't have the diopter or the aperture inside of it, but I'm still able to really control the light. That's one of the things that I really want to drive home in this talk, is that you don't have to use the snoot to just create the single ring circus. Before the snoots, like I was saying in the beginning, before Kerry Wilk released his first snoot, I used to use beard cozies a lot. And I'd put those on the end of my strobe, and it would really direct that light and help me to capture images the way I wanted to, because I don't like that look where it's completely washed out unless I'm using that to my advantage. So going and talking about bokeh, I really look for things that has that design, that's going to lend itself to the image, and things with dots, spots, lines, anything of that nature. I know that when I really open my aperture, that those designs are going to start floating away and becoming this really interesting portion of the image. So while the subject is the main event, the rest of its area and what's happening around it can also become part of that story. However, that can also become very obnoxious. So you have to be careful about how you do that. And a lot of times introducing stuff into the background, like I've done here, can reach the obnoxious level. And I've seen that quite a bit. And it, for me personally, I like to do this a little bit. This is man-made bokeh. I'm basically using a piece of steel wool and a torch to highlight that in the background. And then an open aperture, and my nearness to the subject is further than the distance from the stuff in the back. So that forces that bokeh. But like I was saying, that this can get obnoxious very quickly, so you kind of have to use it tastefully. And then working with strong lines. I love just using the strong lines of subjects. So here I am with my snoot off camera. This is the fiber optic snoot. And then this subject was very cooperative. This is a blenny, and it's actually on eggs in a hole, so it wasn't really going anywhere. And I was able to work with them. And for me to have a subject that I can work with, again, is much better for me than to swim around and shoot as many photos as I can on the dive. That doesn't make sense to me. So if I find a subject that's a player, I'm going to spend my time with it and try to hone my skill that I'm working on. So a lot of times I'll go down with an idea and I'll just work on it. And not all silhouettes are created the same. So you're looking at silhouettes in different ways. And this one, I'm high keying the silhouette of the forehead, the head of the nudibranch, so you can really see the rhinophore definition there in the front. And this is when we had the volcano going off. So my friend said, "Wow, that looks like a volcanic eruption," and he's right. So that's what I named the shot. Eruption. Silhouettes with color. This is using that torch. And the idea from this one came from a contest that I was actually at or judged. I'm not sure, but I had seen an image similar to this and I wanted to replicate it. So I worked on it. And, so here I'm not using any flash in the front at all. I actually looped the eye in this one and just brought it up in Lightroom to give it some definition. I have other shots where I've actually used the snoot tip really small and highlighted the eye, but I actually like this one better. It's not too obnoxious. And I found that purple magenta light to really transmit well underwater, so I've used that one frequently, as in this shot. So another concept image. This is when we're bringing the backscatter snoot to market. So I was doing some product shots on this, and here I'm using a reflection tube. So that was one of the things that was on my camera setup in the beginning. It gives you this interesting swirl pattern. Some people call it the drain pipe of creativity, which, if you think about it, is using that kind of device really being creative. I don't know if it's really being creative. It's using a tool, so it's just kind of a added dimension or more than being creative. But at the end of the day, in the creative process, it definitely helps me to have fun, actually, and to create different images. So here I'm using a combination of different things. I've found some subjects that are very cooperative, and then that circular pattern from the bottom all really loaned itself well to this shot. High key image making. This goes to a Japanese style of photography. So I really like the way they take the shots from high to low instead of from low to high. And so here I'm using the high key to kind of gauge my exposure. I'm using a snoot on the subject in the foreground to get the color just right. And once I have the colors on my subject, I'm actually, if I wasn't using the strobe in back of my subject, you would just see black back there. So here's a shot. I have this snooted, and then now I take my other strobe and position it over the top and then really crank it up. So it's not totally blowing out the high channel, but it gets it as highly exposed as possible without losing all the information, because I still want to be able to maneuver those that high channel in the color space. So what I'm looking for when I'm doing this is actually just eliminating any kind of shadow possible, and then making my subject bringing my subject out still to retain its color. So high key exposures are pretty tricky. I've tried it on a lot of stuff, and I've failed a lot. I've made a lot of failures, but you know, that's where the challenge is for me. I don't mind failing because I learn every time I do that. Another high key exposure of a Batavia batfish. Now, I've found that the high key exposures work really well in just recreational shooting too. So if you're on the sand, you know, and I'm looking at a subject, I'm like, you know, my portfolio is like full of snooted shots. Do I really want to keep doing it? Of course I do, because it's fun. But I also like using the challenge of bringing the highlights of a darker subject like this out, and then making sure that those details don't get lost in the dark background. So by bringing the background into a really high key kind of back setting, it makes the subject really pop off the screen. Now here's a technique that I really have been interested in, and motion and blur. We see motion a lot. You know, you can use it in all different types of photography. I'd love to capture the energy of moving subjects. You can exaggerate that, but here, this is doing it a little bit differently. So in this shot, we have just a common pan shot. This is in where is this? Papua New Guinea or Tahiti somewhere. I think Tahiti. And a lot of ambient light, and we're in this little crevice on a drift dive, taking a breather, and there's these marauding sharks kind of moving around, and this school of these snappers, really nervous, just kind of moving back and forth, and you can hear it. It's very audible. They're all moving, and you know, I shot some photos, and I was looking at my screen. I'm like, you can't really feel the energy of what's happening in that 1/200th of a second shot. So I wanted to really capture that. And how I do that is, you know, I just slow down my shutter, and then I'm going to pan in the same direction as the subjects. And here I have to really pay attention to the exposures in the foreground. So I'm going to stop down a little bit and go ahead and do that. And it really helps to freeze the eye, create those trailing lines. But what's important about this is when you're working in an environment that is turbid or near the surface where you have a lot of particulate shooting sharks like blue sharks and other subjects like that, it works really well because that particulate now becomes part of the design. And if anybody swam with schools of fish, you'll know what the #1 problem is: fish poop. So, you know, it's very hard to get a clean shot of fish with all of that element in the water. So panning helps to alleviate some of that. And here's a static shot. Now it's again back to California. That back and forth kind of energy of the surge, and I wanted to capture that in the photo. You know, I'm actually have my knees. California, we're a bit more hardy, so we don't really mind the reef too much, you know. But I have my knees locked around a boulder like you would ride a horse, and I've positioned my torch behind that subject, and you know, I'm just shooting a slow shutter, no strobe flash, and it's just really making the subject low, and you can see that backscatter moving back and forth. And that was really the shot that I was after. It took me a lot of shots to get a decent one, but well worth the effort for me. And here's kind of a wacky shot. So what I'm doing here is I'm snooting. The snoot is static, and then I'm just moving my camera. So the flash is going to freeze the area that is you know, the prime portion of the image, and then I'm panning the shot, and that's the ambient light coming through. And panning on a seahorse. So yeah, this becomes interesting very fast. If you're working in the daytime, you're going to get a lot of this ambient light. If you're not, you're working at night. If you have front strobe flash, you're going to lose some of that streakiness. But you can, you know, when you're bringing in that static light, which is, as you know, it's not flashing, so you're going to have that light penetrating your aperture and your your shutter for as long as it's open. So as long as that shutter's open, that light's going to be shining in. And while that's open, you can do a lot of stuff with it. So it's fun to try to experiment with different things, especially in macro. You can really come up with some crazy designs on subjects. This is using a similar method, but I'm using a zoom lens. And you know, this is not a new technique. This isn't something that I dreamed up, but it's a slight twist, you know, with the zoom. And I'm backlighting it and just using my old Sigma 28 to 80. I'm sure some of you guys probably have that lens somewhere. I think they cost about $65 or $70 on eBay. Well worth it. So it's a fun lens. You can do a lot of stuff with that. And that's really about it. I'm going to cut it off there because if I don't, I could keep going on and on. Do we have any questions? Anybody questions about that stuff? Okay, if you have any questions, you can either contact me or
Yeah, Mike, I have a question on that last one, the Rhinopius, where you have, yeah, go backwards. Yeah, that one right there. You said that you had the back, no, the other one. Yeah, that one right there. You were backlighting with what, a constant light on the back?
Yes, I have I'm using a 3500 lumen torch in the background.
Okay.
And it's positioned
are you on a
right in back.
Were you on a tripod when you shot this?
No, you could use a tripod to stabilize. I'm holding it steady and then zooming as I'm shooting with the slow shutter.
All right.
So I start my zoom very slow. I start my zoom and release the shutter.
And about what type of shutter speed? 15th?
1/30.
1/30. Okay, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
1/30 on this one. You could go slower, but it's going to start letting in too much ambient light. So yeah, you kind of have to balance that out.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
On one of your shots, I think it was a frogfish, and you had the snoot shot of the frogfish eye, and you said, well, further back, and you were panning the camera. How do you pan the camera with the snoot?
Okay, so when I pan, the snoot is off camera.
Oh,
so I set the camera up, and then I pan as I shoot. So I'm just watching the subject. I know my lighting is set up. This is what's so nice about snooting off cameras, because you can set it up, get your lighting where you want it, and then now you're free to move about. You don't have to stay in the same position.
So you have
you can create compositions.
Yeah, the snoot
right.
like
So
on a
here it is.
tripod.
You could use a tripod. I'm actually using a fiber optic snoot that has 2 arms. So I fold one arm under, and that's like a monopod.
Okay.
Right. I have actually had really bad experiences with tripods and snoots that include an octopus grabbing onto one of the legs of the tripod and then having a wrestling match. So that didn't go so well for me. But this system works really well. It's basically a monopod. I set the strobe down the sand, get the light where I want it. But then I'm able to do whatever I like. I can zoom, I can pan, I can sit still, you know, and then change compositions. And so that's a very effective method.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, you're welcome. Anybody else?
So then this is Craig. So then the snoot is a slave. How do you trigger the snoot if it's off camera?
I'm using a long fiber optic cable. I use fiber optic connectors instead of electric sync port. I have a flash trigger in my camera.
Okay.
So
okay. Yeah.
I found with the electronic sync cables that they coil and they're pretty tight. So when you back up, it starts dragging your snoot. So I switched over and started using fiber optic cables, and I'm able to use a really long one right off my camera. If you don't have that option, you can also slave it. You know, if you don't want to use fiber optic cable, you can slave it from one strobe to the next. You just have to turn that other strobe that you're slaving from off into a different direction.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was wondering, if you were running some other strobe to trigger it. Okay, that's cool. Yeah.
You can go, you can use a strobe to trigger, but that's just how I do it. It works. It's very functional. And having fiber optics nice, because when I'm diving with guests, I could swim up to them. They might be shooting something, and I'll signal them. I'll unplug their fiber optic, plug in mine with a snoot, and help them out. So that's kind of fun too.
Yeah.
Although when I do it, I get funny looks because unless you discuss it ahead of time, it can raise an eyebrow.
Thanks.
If there's any other questions, I'm happy to take them. Otherwise, we can move on. All right. So, as a photographer, I really love blackwater diving because it's a challenging kind of way to photograph subjects that are highly interesting to me. And for a long time, I've been, like I said before, I've been diving in Anilau since 2006. And you watch the seasons come and go like we do wherever we dive. And I have to wonder, where do all these subjects come from? So it took me a while to figure it out. If I want the answer to that question, I have to swim off the reef and out into the water and start looking. And then there, maybe I'll see the things and get some answers that I'm seeking. And so I've learned quite a bit. And, one thing I've learned about having a kind of a scientific or inquisitive mind is that there's no real answer. And anytime you get an answer for one thing, you have two more questions behind it. So the quest continues. Anyways, for me, there's nothing more challenging or fun than to shoot in open water, and especially in open water at night. It's a once in a lifetime kind of a thing when you get these specific animals. And, I've heard my mentor's voice more than one time chiming into my brain, screaming at me, "Chance of a lifetime, don't mess it up," except for with the cuss word. He would say that to me all the time and slam his hand on the table. So tonight we're going to talk about this area in the Philippines that I do most of my diving in, and blackwater diving, most of it. I've done it in Florida, Hawaii, Bali, all different areas, California. But for me, this is where I'm at the most. And I've been able to really just get in there and, just love it. So here we are getting ready to go out at night. And a lot of times when we're doing these blackwater groups, we kind of run a reverse cycle. So we'll stay out late and sleep in the morning, shoot, talk about photos, share photos, discuss how we shot them and the different aspects of the natural history. And then we eat, go out and do it again. I mean, there's nothing better. In the beginning, when we started doing this, I was using maps, bathymetric maps from the California Academy of Science. And it was really hard to figure out, we just thought, look, we're going to go try to find the deepest water and go. And that's what we did. And we had mixed results. It wasn't until we started to really use some of these apps that are out there to see what's under us in lifetime and know. And then we could start planning the dives a little bit better. This is what we're looking for. We know that the ocean is divided up into different zones, and that's done basically by depth. There's a couple of things that you'll hear the science world talking about, which is the upwards migration of plankton, and that's what we're really after, is going after these subjects that are in this upwards migration. Now, there's the upwards migration of plankton is something that they discovered basically around, I think it was when they were trying to develop sonar in World War II. They noticed that the bottom kept moving up at night and then back down again during the daytime. So they couldn't figure out what was wrong with their testing until they figured out it's plankton that are so dense that it's actually reflecting the sonar. So now science has known about the horizontal migration pattern for hundreds of years, but this is when they first started catching on to the upwards migration. So this is kind of what we look for, okay? So what happens is during the daytime, a lot of these planktons are down deep And then as the sun sets, they begin this upwards migration towards the surface so they can disperse and feed. And as they do that, their predators also follow them up. Now, when you talk about the upwards surface, you're talking about the top 600 feet of water, 700 feet of water. So we're not always talking about right at the surface. And of course, as recreational divers, we can only get down to 100 and however many feet that is. So, you know, anyways, a lot of subjects that we see maybe in the mesopelagic zone that are migrating up. A lot of the subjects might be going from the benthic to mesopelagic, which you might see in the deep sea sub. But when you get out there and you start doing these dives, you'll never know what you're going to see. So here's some of the gear that I use. I think we're running about 60,000 lumens of light off the downline at night. Here's our downline. We use this orange pumpkin that we have a torch in, and then I have about 75 feet of line with 4 or 5 light bays in it. So we throw that in the water, let it soak, and then when it's time to dive, the divers get in right where that line is. Everybody free drifts with the line to the water. And it's really perfect because you never even know that you're moving. There's no reference to reef or anything like that. So you have no idea how much ground you're actually covering. When I did it in Florida, and I know Linda could attest to this, you could cover up to 9 miles. We did 9 one night, 6 on another, and you never even feel like you're moving. So it's pretty amazing. This is really the best method for it, is just the free drift with that line. So here's kind of what we've discovered over the years is what we try to do with this line is to create a plankton cloud. So these subjects will start moving up, and you get all these little krills and isopods and things swirling around the lights. And when you see that, for me, I think, okay, now the magic's going to happen. And once that starts happening, it starts to draw in the other predators, the squids, the octopus, and other things, and really make it exciting. So here are some of the basic subjects that we can see in a quick snapshot that are in that pelagic world. Some of the flatfish of the bay. Flatfish are beautiful. They can become really elaborate. And I use that term very loosely just because these are, you know, flat fish. But some are soles, some are flounders, and so forth. Cephalopods, one thing that's nice about our bay, which is good and bad, is that we have this huge population of different cephalopods. Now, what I mean by good is it's great for photographers. Bad, it's an indication that the environment's been fished out of predatory fish. So you can take it however you want. As a photographer, you know, of course, I don't want to see all those animals gone, but man, you know, we have these great cephalopods in our bay. So when you talk about plankton, a lot of times people's eyes will glaze over right away. You know, oh, plankton, you know, but you know, plankton play a very, very important role in our, not only our oceans, but in our global ecosystem. They supply more than 50% of the oxygen on Earth. They supply the greater food web of the animals and mammals in the ocean. And then that food, in turn, makes it into our food chain through different sources and fisheries. But plankton play an extremely important role in our environment. So different types of jellyfish. This one's actually refracting light. You know, and people have asked me, well, what's a blackwater dive like? What can I expect? And the only thing I can really think of is imagine yourself running down a sidewalk and trying to shoot a butterfly at night. And that's kind of the way it is, especially in the beginning. After you've been doing it for a while, you can really mellow out. But about the first 4 dives, that is probably the most applicable thing I could ever explain to anybody. After that, your dive skills are there, your hunting skills, your photo skills all start coming in to play. And the rubber really meets the road, especially for photographers. And they'll see butterfly with eggs.
Hey, Mike, just a quick question. So when you do these blackwater dives, is it a nightly dive option, or is it one night a week, or how do you normally do these?
I go out every single night possible.
Okay.
So when you're at the resort, you can book them that night. Usually we like to know in the morning so we can properly prepare the downlines. And I usually have at least one boat going every night, up to 3. I can run three a night.
Typically,
And we don't always
yeah,
go
I
to the
think-
same place. We kind of spread out and hunt the bay. Like when we do the safaris, we go and hunt, and then we'll come and have an SI together on the shoreline and talk about what each of us saw, and it's really a lot of fun. And
Yeah,
unlike
Mike,
a
I think
regular macro trip,
do you have
Yeah,
people?
Mike, I was going to say that you just the other comment is that you go out for 2 dives with about an hour, of course, surface interval between the two.
that's right. That's right. That's normally how we do it. And the reason why I keep the dives to about an hour or a little more is it's not because I'm cutting the dive off. It's basically how long your tank lasts. I've tried really hard. I've used larger tanks, and they just kind of go. And then I like to manage my battery power. So they usually run about an hour, and we take a break and go back out and do another one. I've done 3 dives in a night, but then you're back at about 3 o'clock in the morning. So 2 dives is.
What's the average depth that you normally stay at?
Well, it depends. Depends on what you want to do. My line is 75 feet long. The lowest light is at about the 70-foot mark, and the highest are right at the safety stop, 15. So I have 4 lights of really strong video lights, 4 bays down the line, and I would say generally between 45 to 60 feet is where you want to be, and some nights it can get a little deeper. Other nights the action's up top. So it's hard to really say. You have to kind of gauge as you go. But it's really easy to monitor your depth by looking at the line, knowing the top one's at 15 and the bottom one is 70 feet. And then you just pay attention to your ears, and you'll know your depth is changing or whatever. So it's, as a diver, if you've done more than if you've done any kind of diving in your career, you'll know right away. You'll catch on to this, and if you're a photographer, that's right behind it. It's very, very easy to adapt to this. You'd be surprised.
And so the lights are drifting.
You talk
Yes.
about bays. How many lights total, and how many lumens are you working with?
Well, I've run as high as 100,000 lumens, but you can't really add your lumen count together. Just because I have 2 5,000 lumen torches doesn't mean I have 10,000 lumens. So on my downline, I'll have 2 10Ks, I have 4 12Ks, I have 4 5Ks, and 3K lights. So I could be running as much as 60, 70, 80,000 lumens of light in the water. And yes, free drifting in the water. We're not connected to the boat. Everything moves at the same speed. So like I was saying in the beginning, you never even know that you're moving. And the reason why we do that is because in the beginning we tie that line to the boat, and when the first wind came along, that line would be swept off with the wind in the boat, and you'd be left there with nothing. So we had to detach, and that's really the best way to do it.
How many is the normal number of divers that you take out at a time?
On a boat, normally 4 people plus a guide at any time.
Just one guide.
Yeah, just one guide. You can hire a guide if you like, but for this kind of diving, you don't. Once you start hunting, you're going to be looking for specific stuff. And guides, they'll be showing you the same thing over and over. So, a guide works really well with people that are newer to it for Blackwater than they do, I think. I mean, I still like to have when I go out on my own because I like to have a dive buddy. And the dive guides love it because just imagine you've done, 5,000 dives in your life. Now you can see something new, right?
Yeah.
So these guys they want to go out because they're passionate like we are, and they want to see something new. So they're out all the time. They're looking for stuff, and so yeah, I run 4 guests to 1 guide. Occasionally, I might put a second guide on the boat.
Now, is there a particular area or dive site that you use, or could you just go anywhere?
Well, I kind of breezed over that in the beginning, but I use an app. And by using that app, I've learned the different pockets in the area. So I have actually named 4 or 5 different locations that we go to. And instead of going to random sites, I like to visit these other ones because they tend to be more productive.
Okay.
Yeah, like if you want to see a blanket octopus, we'll go to a specific area for that. Not to say you're not going to see them in other areas, but they just have a higher propensity to hunt in certain areas. Like a blanket octopus, for instance, it likes to hunt along a sandy slope. So they might come in and hunt this slope that is, 1.5 miles long, that just slopes out into deep water, versus a muddy substrate that's more straight up and down. So, back to the planktons, I like to teach people to really look small and find big. And for me, that's some of the most interesting stuff. And I love looking and talking with Linda because she is really all about shooting these small subjects and so good at it. But, I also like it, but I think she really focuses and concentrates on it more and does a really good job. But if you have, I think Linda she's here, and some of you guys probably have her book, really a good kickoff point to start learning the cool side of planktons, okay? This is this predatory guy likes to cruise around, eat pteropods and other smaller planktons. I mean, these guys really have a tough life, They can't avoid being eaten. It's like a gauntlet at all times. A sea elephant, this is about 1 inch long, so pretty large one. We've seen them in California, just enormous, maybe 4 inches, 5 inches. And I've seen them much smaller in some areas. They swim upside down like that. Their little proboscis is always pointed up. Occasionally you see them with shells and eggs on the tail. Venus girdles basically look like a piece of Scotch tape floating through the water with a little band in the middle. They become very colorful at certain points. We even have nudibranchs. So there's a couple of pelagic nudibranchs that feed on the pupils of siphonophores. Very interesting. That one's for you, Graham. Different veligers. So these are different types of snails, and they call that the colorful appendage the velum, and that's kind of where they get their name, the veliger. You can imagine, these guys, like the top 3, the typical snail veliger, the one on the right and the one on the bottom, those will eventually settle to the sand and become some kind of a snail. But at this stage, very difficult to identify what they are. The one on the bottom left, the Atlantoporani, is pretty significant if you're studying salinity of the ocean and acidification. It's pretty interesting, but you can see its little eyes there. And the immortal jellyfish. Now this guy is really cool. True to form, and a lot of other marine life, not just the immortal jellyfish, but a lot of these subjects can live hundreds and hundreds of years. So what's interesting about the immortal, and I really encourage you guys to Google this stuff and check it out. But after it's left that planula stage and it becomes a benthic polyp, it can then go ahead and become an adult and then reproduce and then revert itself back to that polyp stage. So if it finds itself in a position where it can't sustain itself, it can revert itself back to the polyp. And then over, the course of time, could be 1 week, 1 year, 100 years, it can then go ahead and go back to becoming an adult and start reproducing again. Very, very interesting life cycle.
Mike,
Uh-huh.
On that last 2 images, I was just curious of the one on the left. What would you say the height of that is?
Overall, the
Yeah.
bell is about the size of my pinky nail.
Okay.
And it's very small when you see it. If it's not open, you would just see this kind of opaque, goldish, brown colored thimble drifting by. But then as you spend time with it, it begins to open up and becomes this really beautiful, elaborate jellyfish. And this is why going out and doing this kind of diving repeatedly becomes important, because you learn your dive skills and you don't flail. You wait, you take your time, and you see that opening up before you and becoming this beautiful jellyfish spinning, just like the one on the right is spinning. And then for no reason, it'll just suck back up and just float and then start all over again. So really interesting, you know, and you're drifting with it. And then you're looking out of the corner of your eye and you're seeing that downline kind of get further away, and you're drifting it. You have to really, you know, have good spatial awareness, right? And you're looking back, okay, a couple more. Then it gets down to the, please God, just one more shot. Then you're like, okay, I'll never do it again, God, please. So yeah, you have to kind of, you know, make a lot of deals with God sometimes to get these shots. Big jellyfish. We've been lucky. We get these nice sized jellyfish into the bay. This one is about the size of a basketball. And that's actually has the downline light behind me. So, you know, I was talking about before in the first part of the presentation, shooting with the slow shutter. I love doing that. Anybody could shoot fast shutter. Shooting with the slow shutter is a little bit more difficult. So here I'm just opening that shutter speed and letting that ambient light in from behind, make it kind of look like a sun. Salps and salp chains, very great target to look at. Even if you're on a day dive and you're minding your own business and salp hits you in the face, well, check it out. You know, there could be stuff living in it. Yesterday we had tons of salps as we got close to the dive site, and they had fish in them and all kinds of cool stuff. So, you know, just you look in there and you'll see little fish. At the bottom right, we see paper nautilus, a male paper nautilus, female, different jackfish on the left. So yeah, very good target for this. Here's a box jelly. It's not the wasp. It's not the irukandji. Not sure what this one is actually classified as, but I know it'll put a real bad hurt on you if you get stung by those tentacles. So, you know, when I see a box jelly and then these fish having this relationship and still alive, mind you, with the box jelly, it's intriguing. As a lot of times we'll see the fish digesting, or the jellyfish will have fish inside that it's digesting. It's stung them, it's killed them, it's digesting it. But here we have these drift fish that are actually going into the jellyfish and then eating those scraps of other fish out of them. So it's a very cool relationship. And we know that it's not just limited to certain kinds of fish. So here you have a whole class of fish called the drift fish that not a lot is really known about. So scientists know, yeah, they exist. They don't really know how many there are. I mean, it's a huge ocean, right? How could you possibly know? There's just so much stuff out there. So this is actually shot in the Menjangan Channel in Bali, this one. And this is just like a big biosphere. I think this was Lembe. Lots of stuff living in this one. And some quick phases of a crab's life. You know, you have a full-grown crab at the top with eggs. Eggs hatch, and the crabs will come out becoming zoes, and in time become a megalopa, and then into the final stages. But as they do that, they continue to molt. You'll see lots of molting crabs and megalopas at certain times of the year, and other times not so many. Last year, I think in July, August, we were seeing tons of swimming crabs. I've never seen so many swimming crabs before. And this one happened to have eggs. Really cool, came swimming up, and just amazing. So Phronema is a really cool little pram bug that takes up residence in these salps. And then they kill the salp, they eat the interior of that salp, and then we'll kind of use it as protection. The female does. They'll float around. It's like a barrel, right? Like a barrel, and they just kind of float through this black space. You know, inside of that barrel, they lay their eggs and use it as a nursery. And when the time comes, the eggs hatch. So here you can see her actually caring for the eggs on the slide right, and then on the left with the unhatched eggs. you can see this is a really sinister looking creature too. Even though they're small, they have these hook-like appendages on the top of their body that they hook into the barrel, and just a really cool subject. So if you read about these guys, they'll say that this crustacean has escaped the bonds of the substrate and has moved itself up into the water column and is now taking advantages of these different types of subjects like salps. And when you talk about horizontal migration, that's one of the key tools that they use to disperse. So, you know, in millions of years of evolution, that's one of the things that this guy has actually achieved. So some different subjects here, riding a shrimp riding a jellyfish, and a stickhead that Linda named. I love the name, stickhead. A lot of times we see these small shrimps or different types of crabzoids that have these spiny appendages, and you know, you think, wow, that's a cool design, but it's highly effective. You know, if you're a fish and you see that shrimp, you're thinking, wow, quick protein, but you know, if you bite down onto those spikes, man, not friendly. Now, you don't want to do that. You would, you know, cause damage to yourself. So that design works very effectively. And here we have a balloon stage mantis. And a lot of these subjects will settle to the sand. So, you know, in a larval stage, the subject will leave the egg. They'll go through this huge metamorphosis of change several times through their life cycle before they become the subject that we are more inclined to seeing them as when we're doing a macro dive. All right. When we see a larval mantis shrimp, they can be clear, they can have some slight colorations, but they look completely different, obviously, from the adults on the sand. Not all stomotopods are going to reach the sand. This one will just stay in the plankton and become part of the greater food web. And here's a good example of the larval stage and the settled adult stage. I'm not sure if these are exact matchup on species, but it's just an example. Blackwater photography and photo contest. Now, I won the World Shootout a couple years ago, and the reason why I did that was to wasn't to appease my own ego, but to really, you know, get my name in the hat and to do it. And I knew at that point that this category is going to break wide open, and it really has. And a lot of contests now have their own categories just for Blackwater, and it's a great way to compete because the categories are small, and you have a great chance at winning a trip to Crystal Blue. So, little plug there. This has become one of the real iconic subjects for Anilau. And I've been very lucky in my career as a photographer to shoot a lot of subjects, first shot subjects. So for me, I shot the first Wonderpuss larvae in 2012. I didn't know what it was. I knew it looked like Mars Attack. It's a beautiful subject. And I sent it to California Academy of Science, and it was identified as a settling Wonderpuss. And I'd never heard that phrase before, settling. So that was another thing that intrigued me. And I knew if we were to find these guys, we need to get offshore and start looking. And it wasn't until we started really doing the Blackwater dives till we started seeing these things frequently. So people come, you know, oh, I want to see a Wonderpuss, or oh, I want to see, you know, by the third or fourth night, if I ever see another Wonderpuss, I'll die, you know. So it's one of those things where you're going to see them. Long arm octopus, even though they look very similar, they have very different behaviors. And this guy, we're not really sure what it is. We know it's an octopus, not a squid. But, you know, one of the great things and great draws about Blackwater is the real opportunity to see something you've never seen before. And I think we could all attest to that, knowing as divers that there's a lot of the ocean that still hasn't been discovered, especially stuff that's migrating upwards. You know, and if you're not out there to see it, you'll never see it. Not from your couch, not ever. So you have to get out there. You have to look. You have to explore. Little motion in that one. Some quick videos. We're wrapping up on this thing. You guys have been patient. But one thing that we noticed what I noticed early on was this symbiotic behavior between jellyfish, specific kinds of jellyfish, and jackfish. And when I first shot this photo, I thought that the jack was going to kill the jelly and eat it, or the jellyfish was going to smother the jack. I didn't really understand what was going on. It took me a while to figure it out and to start getting feedback from scientists and other people's observations that the jack actually has a symbiotic relationship with the different types of jellyfish. And the way that works is that they actually push that jellyfish through the water. That water makes, the jellyfish makes better water contact, stinging more organisms, and then the jack is able to feed off the scraps. They keep it away from other predators like turtles, sunfish, other things, and it's a really beneficial relationship. The jacks select these jellies at a very young age. This is about the size of my pinky now. They grow together over a long period of time. The jack is free to leave that jelly anytime. The jelly even created a little flat for him. So very interesting behavior. You know, and you go back to this shot here, you can see that little flap that has developed over time that allows the jackfish to go inside and rest. And it goes in there and it pushes the jelly. It'll spin it around like a ball. Just fascinating. So inope squids are another one of these true deep water squids. They work their way up, I think, following a seasonal migration pattern. When we get them, we have them for about 6 weeks to 2 months out of the year. We don't see them all year round. I think they come up to maybe, I don't know, 1,000 feet to lay their eggs. And then from there, they hunt upwards and are attracted to our lights. At this stage, they're a smaller squid, but they're very, very flamboyant. So they have these great designs with their arms and their tentacles and just really beautiful, striking subjects. This is a jeweled squid, another deep water squid. And a smoker. These purple-backed squids come in and hunt in big packs. They use ink in various ways to escape predation or actually hunt other subjects. Here's one of the purplebacks grabbing onto a fish and just ripping it apart. It's not uncommon to see a fish head kind of drifting down on a dive, and you'll know the squids are there. Diamond squids, very, very beautiful squid. This is a, it gets its name because I think there's, in the squid complex, there's mainly 4 different varieties, and this one has the rhomboid design of the fins on the swimmers. So this gives its name the diamond squid. So when you shoot at this guy, you know, if it's coming at you and you're shooting lens on with your strobes, you know, pretty much perpendicular, not perpendicular, but horizontal to the subject, you get this one kind of color pattern. But as it swims under you, the light can really refract, or if you get under it, the light really refracts. And once those chromatophores and photophores start to move, you can really get some interesting color patterns on these diamond squids. As squids, I love the challenge of trying to shoot video with squids because they're so darn fast. Even though they're aggressive, they're still very timid. So I love the challenge of shooting video. I recently started concentrating on that a few years ago, but I got this lens converter that turns my 60mm lens into a 22mm, and it really allows me to get close, to frame and track the subject, and to light it really well. So you'll hopefully be seeing more Blackwater video from me in the future. Larval fish, another really interesting. This is really some interesting stuff, especially out of Florida. That Gulf Stream brings in some interesting larval fish, but we do get our share of some interesting ones too. So here we have the adult larval snake blending on the top left, and on the bottom right, we have the larval stage. And even though they're relatively the same size, they behave very much the same way. The habitats and the developmental stage are different still. Poor guy on the bottom right even has a parasite on his head. A lot of times we see these flatfish, these long appendages. To me, it looks like they're luring their way through the dark, although we're not really sure. We think that appendage mimics jellyfish or siphonophores. It makes them look larger, and indeed it might help them feel their way through the dark. Depending on the current and the tide, we could get subjects coming in, like the Jackson jellies will be coming in on an incoming tide. And then as the tide reverses, we'll see stuff like pipefish and seahorses as the bay drains out. Probably one of my favorite ones is this bend stick pipefish. I mean, if you've seen the bend stick pipefish on the sand, you would basically swim past it. But as a larval subject, it's really whimsical. And when they're drifting all together and it's wrapped up in itself, those appendages make it appear as seagrass. And then once you're on it with your lights, it'll open up, and it's just an amazing subject. Tonguefish, cusk eels, all deep water subjects. This is a pompano, and I just had this one ID'd too. I forget the name of it. It's not a sea robin. It's a, I'm not sure what it is. I forgot. Dragon tooth or something like that. Anyways, really beautiful subject, really small. These flaps actually become part of the gill cover. So you look at those flaps, and what the heck are they? But when I was talking to the scientist about it a couple of weeks ago, he said, well, those will actually become part of the gill cover. Yeah, boxfish, or I'm sorry, soapfish. So these guys, you know, soapfish, they have the little beard, they hide out underneath a reef, and not the prettiest fish in the world, but their larvae is stunning. They're small, yellow, big, long streamers. Again, we think those streamers work to help stabilize and also to make them look bigger and to look like jellyfish, like this larval bacillet. We have lionfish. I mean, just think of all the different fish you see on the reef. You know, they have to start somewhere, and it's not on the reef. Okay, so after their eggs are hatched and in the plankton, they develop there, and after a period of time, they become strong enough to settle, and that's what we see. So here we have developing Moorish idols and a batfish, and this will tell us a lot too about the substrate we're diving over. We know that these guys settle deeper than 200 feet where we're at, and over a silty, muddy substrate. So while you'll never see them on a regular dive, or not very often anyways, you have a good chance of seeing them on the Blackwater dive. Oarfish, or the ribbon fish. Again, the motion and movement. Flying fish right near the surface. And nautilus. So the nautilus is what really kicked us off in Anilao for Blackwater, is when we started seeing these nautilus, it really just set the world on fire. And I mean, look at this thing. It's so freaking cute. Excuse my language. You know, we never expected to really see them. And I found out about these guys from my neighbor who told me that they were catching nautilus. You know, he's a fisherman. Okay, so they were catching nautilus and selling them in the fish market. And I'm thinking, nautilus, you know, these guys are deep. How are you catching nautilus? It didn't occur to me that he was talking about paper nautilus. Okay, so much different. And in fact, it's not really a nautilus at all. It's a pelagic octopus. The female forms the shell to brood her eggs. And at night, they'll come up near the surface. And it's common for them to ride different types of flotsam. It helps them conserve energy and to remain near the surface where they're going to meet the males. So here's the females stacked up during mating season. A couple near the surface. So for photo opportunities, like I said in the very beginning, it's unparalleled because it's happening, it's live, it's now. It's your skills, it's the subject, and it's your dive skills. I mean, when I'm shooting these, you would not know that I'm swimming full speed, right? This looks like I'm just sitting there, and it's just posing for me. No, it's doing anything it can to get away from me. I am swimming as fast as I can to get next to that subject for just and again, it's back to that thing. Please God, just make it sharp, and trying to do your best. So here we have a guy. I'm shooting 120 frames a second, swimming as fast as I can. And this is moving away from me. So I'm swimming forward as fast as I am swimming to the side. And you would think, even though they're dragging that jellyfish along, that, it would slow them down. No, it doesn't slow them down. They can even reverse a 180 and come back the opposite direction. So a lot of times when they do that, it's like, chase is over. You're panting, like, oh man, okay, start over. So it's just a lot of fun with those guys. Blanket octopus is a mind blower. So about, 4 years ago now, it was February, like now, end of the night, freezing my buns off. My floodlight was on. Guests are out of the water. I'm swimming back to the boat, and I see this thing that looks like a purple surfboard swimming past my downline lights. And I wasn't sure what it was when I was looking at it at first. But then all at once you realize, oh my God, it's a blanket octopus. So after we've seen them a few times, you want to really know everything about them. So you start looking into the natural history, and I, again, encourage you guys to Google it up and check it out because it's mind-blowing. The blanket octopus, male and female, they have the highest degree of sexual dimorphism of any animals discovered so far on the planet. The male will reach about 2 inches in size, where the female can get up to 6 feet. So huge difference there. Also, another thing that's interesting is they rip the arms off of jellyfish. As you can see here, the tentacles grasped in their arms there at the back that they use for protection and also to hunt with. But read up on that on your own. So here's a female swimming by. It's about the size of the bell, or not the bell. The siphon is about the size of a football. Then you have the wings and arms. Here she is spreading out a little bit near the surface. Really a beautiful subject. Some video. This is about the size of a mattress. Spread out. The head is a bit larger, maybe 1.5 times the size of a football. But once those arms are out and then the blanket comes out, it's really like the size of a mattress. Really just very impressive.
Hey, Mike, we're going to have to get to the photo contest pretty quickly here.
That's perfect because I'm finished. Please.
Did I just read your mind?
Huh?
I must have just read your mind then.
Yeah, good timing. If you guys want to see more videos, please check out my YouTube channel. If you have more questions or ideas or want to see more Blackwater stuff, visit the Blackwater Photo Group on Facebook. And
let's take just a couple of questions, and then we'll turn it over to Martin, and we'll have our photo contest.
All right.
I was wondering what lens he commonly likes to use. I have a D850 also, which I saw you were shooting.
Yeah, I use a 60mm lens. I highly recommend a 60mm lens for Nikon shooters. You can shoot DX or FX. I prefer to just shoot FX all the way through because you get a higher pixel density. And if you're shooting a full frame Canon, you can use the Sigma Art 70mm lens that they have. It's Sigma Art lens. So yeah, I don't recommend using a longer lens because it's hard to frame your subject. Plus, you can't get close enough to it, so you're going to get haze, more backscatter, and things of that nature in your frame. So that 60 is nice because you can get very close, still have that wider angle of view, and get great lighting on it.
Are you usually doing one strobe or two or what?
Most of the time, I'm using 2 strobes for Blackwater. Occasionally 3, occasionally 1, but most of the time 2.
Okay.
98% of the time, 2 strobes. Yeah, thank you.
What do you think the smallest size of a creature you could shoot in general? Like, I know you could maybe get a tinier one, but what's the small average size of these subjects?
You should let Linda answer that one.
Yeah, I teach people, to look small because the larger stuff is going to show up. So you'd be very, very surprised. A lot of these subjects are as small as a grain of rice, floating by, and they're very beautiful, very colorful once you get them up on your screen. So a lot of times you'll take a few shots, not really even knowing what it is, and then you get back and you look at it. Next time you see it, it helps. But one of the nice things about digital photography is you're able to review and zoom very quickly and see what it is that you're looking at on your subject. So you can locate the eye and try to shoot it. So what's the smallest thing? Size of a grain of rice.
Okay, that's a great reference. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question. What gets you excited, Mike?
What doesn't? There's so much to learn, The thing that's so nice about Blackwater photography is it just marries everything: science, dive skills, photo skills, and it's so much fun. I mean, it really is, and it's camaraderie, and just everything wrapped together. I just love it.
It was a great program.
Oh, thank you. I know it's long, and you guys really put.
No,
it was very, very good. I love the video of the blanket octopus because they are awesome. So that was a really good video.
When I went out that night, I had I was shooting with my 2 12K torches, and had just gotten that lens, and I felt something pushing my arm. I thought it was my dive guide pushing my arm, and I look over, and Glenn's off to my right. I turn around, and it's the blanket octopus bumping my arm, and it just unfurled itself right there, purple. It looked like a giant eel swimming up, and then it saw me, and it just opened up. It was just an incredible experience, just incredible.
The thing that I remember is that anytime somebody found something, it was like a magnet. Everybody starts running over to it.
Yeah. If it's a slow night and you see somebody's strobes flashing, dead giveaway. On nights where everybody's flashing.
Yeah, and you do have to be careful about the fact that most of the things that are mobile will head for the bottom as soon as they see you.
Not most. Mainly it's the long octopus will take off and head for the bottom. Some squids.
That was great.
Any other questions for Mike?
I just wanted to make a comment that we got our money's worth, but that wouldn't mean much because we didn't pay him anything. But
it was wonderful.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. We really enjoyed it.
Really great.
Very exciting.
Thank
you.
Thanks,
Mike.
Paid for this.
yeah, I think that we've had some good programs, but I don't think we've had any better than this.
No,
certainly Paul's was excellent. I'm really impressed with the fact that we can get the kind of speakers that we've been able to for these Zoom conferences. Tonight, having so many people show up was wonderful, just perfect.
Right.
And especially
cool.
people like Linda and Graham and all of our friends from around the country. This was true international exhibit. I think that you bring a lot of people to the party.
Well, I think there's a lot of interest of people in underwater photography and diving in general. So I'm happy that we could all spend some time together. And you know what's cool about Zoom is that we're able to do that from a global, globally. So it's something we never did before. The one good thing so far out of this whole COVID mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I hate to break it off right now because we could go on like this for a long time, I'm sure. But we're going to have to give it over to Martin so that he can show the photo contest, and then I guess we will be done for the evening.
Excellent.
Martin, over to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Very good.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Salamat po, Mike, sir.
Well, looks like we have some close contests in the intermediate and advanced. Glad to see that.
Congrats to all the winners. And I'm glad to see some new people entered and some people that haven't entered in a while entered again. So that's nice. Thanks everybody for entering the photo contest. Two quick things I make mention of. One, if anybody wants to see the program that we did a few months back, June or something, on a Blackwater trip that some of us did to Analau, that is on the HUPS.org YouTube channel. And it's Creatures of the Abyss. And it's actually HUPS.org is the name of the YouTube channel. And so you can find that on there. Second real quick announcement I forgot to make earlier. If you go to the HUPS.org webpage, on the very front page, you scroll down a little bit, there's an announcement. We were contacted via the webpage by a company that's going to be producing a reality TV show on shark divers. And so they're a legit company that's done all these other reality shows that you've heard of. But if you or you know someone that's interested, or maybe have someone to suggest to them, the link to that information is on the HUPS.org homepage. If you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see it.
Stephen in Atlanta.
What's that, Tom?
Stephen Anderson in Atlanta, I think it is. Georgia.
Yeah, we already sent that to him because it came through Joe Holden. So Joe sent that to him already too, because we know he's really into sharks. So anyways, again, I want to say thanks to Mike for the program tonight. It was great. And it was also, as Dennis said, great to see all the visitors and new faces. And we do this once a month. So come on back first Monday and hope to see you all again. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to put in a note for everybody. Of course, we've lost two of our divers that have meant a lot to so many people in the Houston area. Jackie Reed, a longtime HUPS member, the king of photography for us for years and years. And then Randy Wiedemann, who's been up in Dallas, and he passed away from COVID also. So we're getting hurt. It's really sad to see these people go.
Yes, it is.
Definitely.
Peggy Whitteman had COVID. She tested negative today.
Good.
Good.
That's good news. Mm-hmm. Very bad.
Yep, bad stuff out there. Everybody be careful.
Stay safe. Wear your masks.
Anything else?
Yeah, I will just mention next month we have Marty Snyderman is going to be talking about diving in the Philippines with a focus on the resorts, Atlantis resorts there. So again, we're talking some big guns here. You need to be able to show up. Can't afford not to.
Good to see you, David.
Yeah, you too, Tom.
All right. See you next time. Bye.
You guys stay safe. We'll see you next month.
All right. Have a good month.
You
vaccines.
too. Stay safe.
Bye.
Justin and Sage are away. Well, all right, everybody.